Hello everyone and welcome to today's Analytics Advanced capsule. We're going to be exploring a new widget type in this video. We're going to dive into the calendar widget and even how to export it and import it into your Outlook, for example. Are you logging a lot of date series data into Borealis? And for example, I mean like the date of a communication or when a stakeholder is created, or maybe you have a field for their birthday. If you're recording a lot of date related data in Borealis and maybe you're looking for a more visual way to display it, maybe the duration or the occurrence, both past and present, of things like communications, maybe stakeholders' birthdays if the field is active, or even the duration of your engagement plans or the start date, for example. This video is for you because we're going to show you how to put it all on a calendar widget and make it much more visual for you and your users. Let's get started, and really excited to show you this one. Now, the calendar widget is a great way to display date formatted data in a visual way, as I just mentioned. Most of this data can be found by typing date when pulling from most fields. There are a few fields I will list off that are common. Maybe you will find them in individuals, communications, and engagement plans, such as the creation date or the date of the communication, the date of the engagement plan, and I'm referring to the start date or end date of your engagement plans, and even the due dates of things like your tasks, feedback or grievances, and commitments. This can all be tracked on the calendar widget. So let's go ahead and create a calendar widget. Maybe what we're looking to do is just give us a list of our meetings that are happening in the past and that are going to happen in the future. So as always, in order to create a widget, we need to go to the Analytics module. We need to go to the Widgets area. We have to hit the Create button here and just select the calendar widget for now. Now I'm looking at meeting data, maybe some events as well. Where do we store that? Well, those are correspondence with stakeholders, and we typically store that in the communications form inside of Borealis. So in my use case here, I'm going to pull this data directly from the communications form and hit next, and we should see, or I guess have our first look at a calendar widget. Now, there is a bit of navigating we could do right away in the calendar, and I'm referring to the widget preview on the right. We do have the option to look at the week, the day, or the list, and we can even cycle between different weeks by clicking these arrows here, and we could do the same with the months as well, just cycling between different months. Now, we also have a legend here you could pop out. This will come into play a bit later when we actually categorize the records that we're pulling, but for now, we just can turn off everything by clicking this. Now, the first step we want is to always give our widget a title. So the title that I picked is Calendar of Our Meetings, just to describe what this widget is. Now, I can also, again, change the access. We're going to keep it to public. We want everybody to use this and see it when it's on a report. Now we're going to work on the properties, and this is where we're going to tell the calendar, I guess, what type of date data we want to report on, and even what we want to display in these little preview boxes. So let's go ahead and get into that. So by default, it's looking at the date and time from the communications and the end date and time. So I could cycle between the different date fields that I have available to me inside of the communications form, and I could just pick this from here. And you see there are a lot of different date fields available, but that's the theme, is they're all date fields. So I can look at the date and time of my meetings or of my communications, and if I am doing multi-day communications, I could just set the end or what you want it to look towards, which would be the end date and time of the communication. So we're going to start with the date and time it started, and then just look at the end date and time. End date and time is more applicable if you are recording multiple day or, I guess, multi-length communications. The end date and time is also good to capture things like daily meetings or meetings that you might have with some of your stakeholders, because it will also look at the end time. So for example, if a meeting is from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., it will reflect on the calendar when the date, time, and end date and time are selected. Just another cool use. So we'll leave this as is because the date and time is the date and time that the communication actually happened. So this is good. It's a good default to go off of. Um, let's stick with it. Now, maybe I wanted to adjust what's displayed right off the bat in these blue boxes. As of right now, it's displaying the title of the communication, but maybe we want to change that. For example, if I go down here to the title box, I could swap around what's first displayed here. So for example, if I wanted it to show the Borealis reference number, I could select that instead, and you'll see that it's now swapped the title to the Borealis reference number on the right-hand side here. The next section we come to is the column section, and don't worry, this actually works very similar to a table widget. So what this area customizes is these boxes actually are interactable, and if I click on it, it'll pull up some information on the communication. I can customize these fields here using the column area. Let me show you how. So maybe I want some more information. Maybe I want to look at the description of the communication, maybe the subject categories that have been discussed, maybe the atmosphere if it's relevant, and maybe the participants as well. So we'll take a look at the participants using the name field, like so. And you'll notice that now if we click on the box, all of that information will be in here. The subject categories, atmosphere, the participants, the description. We could change the order it appears. For example, objectives is at the top right now. And if I wanted it to appear in the middle, I could just drag it down like that. And now we'll notice that if I click on my box here, the objectives is now second from the bottom, which is where we have it on the order in the columns. Now, I mentioned we can categorize our communications, or I guess the records here that we're pulling on the right-hand side. You see there's no category right now, so when I click on the legend, everything disappears. But if I use this categorize field or categorize by field, I'm able to color code these and I guess make the visual appearance a little bit different. Let's show you an example of that. Maybe I want to look at the type of communications, for example. I can easily categorize by the type of communication by just simply inputting it in the categorize field. So I just have to type in the field I want to categorize these by and select the option. And we'll notice on the right-hand side that the colors have now adjusted. And the same thing could be done for other fields. You could pick maybe the general atmosphere, and they'll be color-coded based on the sentiment in the communication. You'll see green is positive, red, for example, is negative. But for our example, I think the type of communications one is really nice, especially when you're pulling from the communications form. So let's select this one and see what it gives us. So now that we've categorized by the type of communication, if we open up the legend again, you'll see that it's showing every single one of our communication types and the color that's associated to it. So we can turn on and off certain things, like if we only want to see events and phone calls, for example, we could turn this off, but takes a little bit of a long time to do that. We can then go back and utilize the filter sections as we always have, just to slice and dice the data to see exactly what we want. So let me show you an example of that. So for example, maybe I only want to see meetings and events. So you'll see now that I've added two basic filters just to include the type of communication meeting and the type of communication event, that all of my communications on the calendar are only events or meetings. Let's go ahead and hit save. That's looking pretty good to me, looking like I have a lot of data on here as well. This chart is done, or this widget is done. Now, if I so choose to, I do have the option. Maybe I want to put this event calendar in Outlook, or maybe I'm planning some events in Borealis, or maybe I want to just upload a general calendar on my stakeholders' birthdays, for example. I could take this calendar and I can export it as an iCal document by clicking here, and then I will have the option to import it as a calendar into Outlook. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new about the calendar widgets today, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.